All right, so welcome back for our second talk. And then after this talk, we will have a 60-minute break. So we will have a talk from Evangelos Moustakas, and he will be discussing blurring lines between fiction and reality, perspective of experts on marketing effectiveness.
That's correct. Thank you.
And virtual influencers. So the floor is yours whenever you want.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this. Hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, perfect.
Excellent. So welcome everybody. I hope you're well. And today's presentation is a research that I've been working together with 3 other co-authors, and I'm referring to Nishtha Lamba, Dina Mahmoud, and Professor Ranga. And today's topic is about, I don't know if I can, let me see if there are arrows. Yeah, so today's presentation is about virtual influencers, but I would like to explain a bit the terms about influencing in general, and then move towards the concept of virtual influencers. So if I could read the first definition they have there about what is influencing marketing. It says it's a process for identifying, researching, engaging, and supporting people that create high impact conversations with customers. And on this, I would like to mention that influencing has been used a lot, heavily actually, in several countries around the world with the growth of social media. It was happening before as well, but through social media, this became a must. So several brands, they were approaching influencers, and influencers were testing the products, they were using the products, and if they were good, they were agreeing, or they were signing a contract, and they were agreeing to somehow endorse this product or service online through a social media channel. Now, if I would like to isolate something or to show some distinction to this sentence, is the part that says high impact conversations. And this is the most important, because if I would like to go back to the concept of branding, the relationship that develops between the brand and the consumer is important, but more important is the relationships that they are nurtured between customers. So customers that will talk about a product or a service, and whether this product or service is positive or negative, or has positive or negative reviews. And this is why the role of an influencer is important, because he's also a natural person, he's an individual that has purchased these products and will be able to share his insights or her insights. Now, there are obviously advantages and disadvantages on this. And I wrote underneath, it's the concept of emotional connection, something we need to examine. Whether, for example, people that they will listen to the endorsement of an influencer, they will really understand that this is a product that will add some value, or how authentic that is, because we had examples in the past in various countries that the influencers had absolutely no idea about the product or service. And it appeared that they were very happy using this product, but when it was revealed later on that that was not the case, that created lots of disappointments to people. So this is something, again, that is very connected with the concept of reliability and relatability, like how you can relate a particular individual to a product, etc. Now, here in UAE, where I'm residing, there was a legislation over the last 2 years that influencers should be registered in a database. And if they are not, that means that whatever type of products or services they promote, this is not something legal. They have to be registered in order to promote these products or services. Now, the last part of this slide is the important thing that always plays the most vital role in marketing, and that is the content. Content is the king, we say. And content is very important. So no matter who is the influencer, if the story that is developed behind this product or service is not well developed and thought in advance, that means there will be gaps. And obviously the number of followers will not appreciate such a thing. So moving towards from the concept of influencing to the concept of virtual influencing. And so we have here two different types, I would say, that it's not that they contradict each other, but that somehow they have common characteristics between them. So one is the computer-generated influencer, what we call the CGI, and the other is the artificial intelligence influencer. Both of them, they have social media presence. The difference between the two is that the artificial intelligence develops emotions and feelings and becomes so close to what we consider the traditional influencer, a physical person, an individual. While a computer-generated influencer is more like a cartoonish style of influencer that you can identify clearly that is generated from a designer, and it doesn't involve so much, it doesn't create feelings towards particular topics. Now, one of the most substantial examples that I would like to share today is little Michela. So little Michela, till today, it has 2.3 million followers on Instagram and around 752 posts. The persona, because this is a persona, it's a 19 years old American female with Spanish and Brazilian roots. And the special thing about it that we categorize that this is an artificial intelligence influencer is actually the fact that developed emotions across the time. And we can see this through the posts that we can see that she has sympathy towards particular problems. For example, for COVID-19, she expressed her fears or her somehow how unhappy she was because of the situation. And this is a very, very classic, I would say, example. Now, similar to this, we have also Sudu. And this is a human avatar, again. It's an African virtual supermodel that mostly she has been used so far for fashion and cosmetic industry promotions. And Wilson, who is the designer of this avatar, he said that he wanted to encourage diversity in the fashion industry, and that's why he introduced and he designed this artificial, again, intelligence influencer. Now, there are other examples of virtual influencers that they go towards avatars. And I'm referring to Nunuri, that again, as you can see here from the slide, there are over 359,000 followers on Instagram. Or we have Lightning, that again, the people that they are in video games, they will understand that Lightning is a video game character. So again here, there are over 336 posts from Lightning. And finally, Lou, that even though the number shows there that there are 3.3 million followers, I would like to identify here and say that this is a magazine in Brazil, that they have already developed the database of followers for several years. But over the last years, they introduced Lou, which the full name there is Magazine Luiza, as you can see, is a short for Lou, that they continued the legacy as a magazine. And they are using now this avatar for promotions through, for example, they promote products or services for several brands, including IKEA. Now, the current research here, we try to identify and to conduct research in an area that is still trending, but it's new, relatively new and fresh. And that means there is no much literature, at least academic literature. There are articles here and there in magazines, but in terms of research, there was a gap. And what we're trying to figure out is, first of all, what is the difference between a virtual influencer? How effective is a virtual influencer? What are the advantages and disadvantages of using a virtual influencer for promoting a product or service? But at the same time, if there are any differences or advantages or disadvantages between the artificial intelligence influencer and the avatar, the cartoonish style of influencer. Now, we used over here for this research exploratory qualitative design and semi-structured interviews. And we interviewed 6 experts that, as you can see in the next slides, they represented different categories and sectors in the industry. Some of them, they were working for Google here in the Middle East, the North Africa region, or Microsoft. And then we had also a manager that was working as a journalist at BBC, and also a professor at the University of Stanford. And also we interviewed an agency here in the UAE, a social media digital agency, and finally a production producer that he was producing visual content, which is again very important when you consider to develop an avatar or a virtual influencer. So all of them, they expressed their opinion about the concept of virtual influencer, and they highlighted some advantages and some disadvantages, as well as provided some recommendations about how they see a virtual influencer moving into the future and what brands, for example, will benefit out of the use of this influencer. Now, the next one here, it kind of summarizes the insights into using virtual influencers in a marketing strategy. And we can see here that there are some things, for example, potential challenges. And one of the challenges that applies to all types of presentations, all types of marketing, is the fact how to maintain the attention of the audience. It's a very hard thing because people lose interest. It's a human thing, which means that after some time, once they get excited about, let's say, a new influencer or a new product, it's very difficult, very challenging to maintain the attention. Now, at the same time, we go back to what we initially studied in this presentation, which is the concept of authenticity and relatability. There were challenges over here from critics, I would say, that, for example, with the Wilson, the designer, what happened with him is the fact that because he was a white guy and his avatar was a black girl, several people were actually skeptical. They were like thinking, why this guy used a black girl for promoting products and services. And obviously that creates a kind of atmosphere that people are becoming skeptical about it. Another thing is the concept of investment. The idea of investing a budget, of allocating actually a budget to develop an avatar or to develop a virtual influencer that will have some basic movements. It's something that will cost money. Also, it needs a strategy behind it. It's not something that can happen within a night. There were other things on the left. For example, it says opportunities a success factor. And I write there, attribution of human characteristics for strong storytelling and going beyond the fashion industry. There were initially, and there were several brands that they used virtual influencers for the fashion industry, but we can see now these examples are expanding to pharmaceutical companies, and we're having also the tourism sector, the F&B, food and beverage. So there is lots of potential that other brands might use a virtual influencer. So there is a potential in this direction. Now, the debate between the humanized or the animated, here there were different approaches. I wouldn't say that they were contradicting, but each of the people that we interviewed, they were skeptical about some areas of the animated or the cartoonish, I would say, virtual influencer, or some others, they were thinking that the humanized approach of a virtual influencer would also have its own challenges or successes. So having said that, it's very much dependent again on the character. The storytelling and the character development in the initial phase is fundamental and will work towards the success of a virtual influencer. The same applies for some of the interviewees. They mentioned that if you're using an animated character, it is safer. While others said that because it adds a human aspect, the artificial intelligence one, it goes closer to what the people are looking for. So there are different approaches on that. So having said that, some of the research findings which are important to mention here is that it could be cost effective, the development of a virtual influencer. And it is unknown to some extent whether it's still kind of debatable whether it would be more comfortable to use the virtual influencers or the ones that they are the cartoonists, or the ones that they are the more into the humanized approach and perform like human beings. Now, another thing which is very interesting is the fact that says here, a character too close to a real human being may make the viewers uncomfortable. And because of that, maybe the cartoon characters might be a safer option. On the other hand, it was also mentioned that realistic characters have of course, the advantage of actually really of going close to the reality about the brand. So, having said that, the next slide here, it continues the findings, the research findings, and no matter what is the final verdict, whether we go for a cartoonish or an artificial intelligent one or an avatar virtual influencer, what is important to consider is whether this virtual influencer is authentic, which is very important in marketing as well as in real life. It's very difficult to find authentic feelings and authentic brands. And when customers do find them, they actually follow them. And the same applies with the real influencers. We see some people develop this psychological, let's say, dependency towards their influencers, the various influencers that they follow. But whenever something negative happens, then things turn that people will unfollow the brand or will unfollow the influencer because they feel that they've been in a way betrayed. Now, another part here, it says the need for huge investment. Yes, initially, we need to allocate a budget, as I mentioned before. But once this is implemented and it has a good storytelling, then the upgrade of this avatar, of this virtual influencer, can bring or can ask for less budgets. Legal issues. Again, this is very important because same as we have here in United Arab Emirates and in Dubai, we have this database with the traditional influencers. I would assume several legal cases will happen with a virtual influencer because behind the virtual influencer, again, there is a person or a team that manages what this virtual influencer will talk about. It might be something that is against a sensitive topic. For example, might be something that for a particular segment or a region might be considered as a taboo topic or as a topic that we don't really talk about in public. Or might be in some cases that there will be a debate, like how can you be a virtual influencer and at the same time you mentioned that you enjoy using these products since you don't exist in reality. And the final thing is the fact that we have here risk in popularity versus the poor execution. And the final part is, again, how to maintain, one more time, the interest of the public, the interest of the followers. Now, one of my last slides for today, it is my last slide before the questions, the Q&A section. I have here some fundamental, I would say, some important recommendations, and that will be in relation to how to create strong creative vision is fundamental. So you need to find a team of creative designers that will, first of all, design on paper and add a name to this virtual influencer, see what exactly, develop a strategy behind it, see in which particular segment this virtual influencer will conduct business, and afterwards going possibly to a virtual, to a designer that will develop a 3D representation of this influencer, add some movements, and then identify also probably which social media channels are the most effective. So a social media influencer needs, as the word says, a social media channel. So all this process is something that it's a long-term process, and also to maintain and to develop something that is going to be robust and remain sustainable in its critical thinking. It's not something that can happen overnight. Engage in storytelling, as we said before, is very important. And it doesn't really matter if it's the avatar or the humanized approach. but the content plays a fundamental role for way for a role for success. And finally, along with fashion, there are several other sectors like the healthcare, as we said before, the tourism industry that at the moment is in a massive turbulence because of COVID-19. And everybody's thinking into innovative approaches. Everybody's thinking into cost-effective approaches, because bear in mind that all these traditional influencers, sometimes they're paid thousands in order to share something on their personal social media channel. So once you develop a virtual influencer, the next stage to use this might be where the future is moving. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this will be shaped in the future, and whether other companies will adopt and really implement this type of strategy or a virtual influencer within the overall marketing or the overall digital marketing strategy. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Evangelos, for this interesting talk. So the question is, so is this based on AI? Like, are those virtual influencers trained to respond to people? How do they work? Like, what's the technology behind?
Great. Well, if it comes to Facebook, we know very well that Facebook in the instant messaging, there are bots. So as an avatar itself, no, it is not trained. It is just the movements and the graphic designers that they will develop, for example, an image, they will put the avatar there, and maybe there's a story, maybe a small little, text, and then they share the content. Now, what I've seen lately is that in some cases, because of the fact that social media now applications, they have included AI, for example, for automatic responses. In some cases, when people are typing something on Messenger, there will be a number of predetermined answers that the way it shows now for the virtual influencers, it shows that somehow they respond. But so far, the answer is no. If this virtual influencer is trained to respond in every single thing, no, it's a matter of process. But so usually there is a team behind these virtual influencers, a team that manages the answers, a team that will post regularly, once or twice per week, and the responses that you see also in comments, they happen from the team.
All right. So I don't know if you've ever seen the website called thispersondoesn'texist.com. Mm-hmm. It's basically generates faces, right? And then like they look very realistic. So do you think that in the future we will see something like this happening, but for like brands and clothes as well, where actually the person does not exist, but might actually wear something that does not exist yet to measure engagement with like new concept of clothes or a new concept of glasses? Would that be something where you see an evolution?
So yeah, it's an interesting question. It will be not accurate to say that no, I don't think this is going to happen, because the growth and the way the whole digital economy is evolving is phenomenal. So I would say that there will be lots of virtual reality situations. Already now we see the example that because of COVID-19 and the termination or the interruption of flights, in several occasions we have countries that they developed a virtual reality experience for the country. So you can use your VR and you can experience how it is the whole journey, like how you book your flight and how you take the flight, how you arrive to the country, and then you can actually go to several places. Like you can go to a souk market, or you can go to a bazaar, and then you can review also your experience, but you have never stepped your foot there. So since this kind of iconic situation has happened, and actually even hotels at the moment, they are thinking to develop rooms, that these rooms will have backgrounds and panels and even music or even smell coming. So you might pretend or you might want to be in the mountains during a day, but you know what? The airline company is not working because still of the restrictions hasn't been lifted.
So we are going to go back to a second life, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
right.
But I think this time is not going to be the same as it used to be Second Life before, because it's going to be more close to reality. In the past, you had the choice to do certain things. Now, with several restrictions, I think this is going to be a way more embedded. I would like to conclude this because it's a very solid question what you asked, is the fact that last February I was at Microsoft Technology Center with a group of students from Middlesex University, Dubai. And they showed us that, of course, the difference between, the AVR and VR, and also they showed us the latest parts, which is of course, we know about the virtual reality, but in virtual reality, sometimes when you use, the glasses, you can make movements and then you hit things in your room because you don't understand the space. But now the idea is that you are looking at the product, let's say you're looking at the bottle, but the bottle, it has several buttons that you can click, but then at the same time, you still have the idea that you are within your room. So this is again something that probably partly will be virtual reality, but partly will be reality. So this kind of hybrid situation, I think, will be the next step, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's next.
Fair enough. So we've got another question here. Is there any case law already established with relation to virtual influencers that you're aware of, i.e. lawsuits that have already been taken to court?
Great. At the moment, I know that there are thousands of cases with influencers, and locally here in the Middle East, as well as, of course, internationally. With virtual influencers, that was not the case. In some cases, what I know is that they have been reportings. So because of a statement of a virtual influencer, some of the users reported the statements, but didn't reach so far a court, except if it's something that happened very recently and I'm not aware of it. But so far, I know that, for example, when some of the virtual influencers, they try to be too sentimental or too humanized, this created negative comments, a round of negative comments. And in some cases, these particular posts were reported to Facebook and Twitter. But because the character of the post was not defamatory or something really rough, obviously the policy of Facebook and Twitter could not really make any action because it wasn't something that reached the level of slander or liver. So I would say, so far I haven't seen any case, any legal case.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much again for this very interesting presentation.
Thank you.
We don't have any more questions, but if anybody's got questions, we still have the Slack as well, the Slack channel where you guys can participate and have discussions. And so this concludes our morning session. We will now have a 60-minute break, and then we'll come back later on this afternoon with 2 more talks. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Xavier. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you, everybody.